Alright, I do not know what is going on with this station. Why, for some reason, only the 4 chargers that are connected to cabinet number 3 seem to be working. But hopefully Tesla can figure that out. And at least we are getting full power. So we'll just hop in here in a second, see where we're at charge-wise and where we're going next. Done some searching, and it looks like we are going to be going to the Marietta GA Supercharger. It is 173 miles away. I'm guessing we probably need to charge to 60%, but we will see. We're doing 122 kilowatts at 40, which seems a bit low. I think we should be doing closer to 140 or 145, but I'm really not sure what's going on at this charge stop. The battery could be a little bit too cold for full speed. The supercharger could be overheating or something. But at least we got peak speeds for a while. We did get 250 kilowatts, and it held it for about as long as I would expect. So now we're just going to wait on the car to get up to probably 60%, and then we'll be taking off. I forgot to mention, it is still very cold. It has warmed up a little bit. We're up to 35 degrees now rather than 28, 30 degrees. But it's not very pleasant outside. Also, our road trip efficiency has been pretty brutal here from Tifton to Ashburn. However, I was blasting the heat, we were blasting the speed, and it needed to precondition to a 250 rather than a 150 kilowatt charger. So we preconditioned to Tifton, charged for a little bit, used a bunch of heat, went fast, and then preconditioned even more. Alright, we are at 61% battery, doing 86 kilowatts, which is not all that fast. It's about a third of our peak charging speed. It's estimating a 3% arrival to Marietta, but I'm not sure I believe it. So I'm going to go ahead and let it charge to 65. And then once we hit 65%, I think we'll take off. Alright, we are closing in on 65%, and it's now showing a 5% arrival at the rate as we hit 65%. So I think we're good to go. We're doing 79 kilowatts. We added 50 kilowatt hours in the session. I think it's time to go to Marietta. I've had just terrible luck trying to get those supercharger handles to stay put. Anyway. Join me in Stockbridge, Georgia. We have just crossed over from 12 to 11% battery remaining, and we are 34 miles from the next supercharger. Well, not the next supercharger, the next supercharger we're going to. We're going to be stopping in Marietta, Georgia, and so far we've driven 139 miles since Ashburn. Been on the road for an hour and 50 minutes, and we've been getting 297 watt-hour per mile. That's not good. I don't know how else to put that. That's pretty bad. It is 35 degrees out. A significant portion of this drive was done below freezing, and for some reason the cold temperatures have just been sapping the range from this car. If I had to guess, I would say it could be due to the battery and the motors just cooling off a lot. This morning when we left Florida, the car was preconditioned before departure, so it was already, hot and ready. The cabin was warmed up, and the battery was at the optimal temperature. So I'm not sure if that has anything to do with it, although we've been supercharging, so you would think that would raise the temperature of the battery to whatever degree that it would want. But yeah, I'm not really sure exactly what it is, but we've just been getting really, really poor efficiency compared to our drive down. So we'll see how it continues to develop, but so far, so good, but the efficiency is underwhelming. We should be getting there in about 25 minutes, and at the moment we have a projected arrival of 0.5%. So we'll see what that exact number ends up being, but I am expecting a 0.1 or 0.2% arrival to Marietta, Georgia. Alright guys, we are at 5% battery, still on the road. We got 14 more miles to go until we get to the Marietta, Georgia Supercharger. Right now it is estimating a 0.3% arrival, so I think we timed that perfectly. Our efficiency has gone up. Since we left Ashburn, Georgia, we are now averaging 292 watt-hour per mile. That's still pretty poor, but it is less bad than it was. I was hovering around 301, 305 watt-hour per mile for quite a long time there. So I'm glad to see it returning to what appears to be a more normal baseline for this car. And with that, I'll see you soon, Marietta. Alright guys, we are now charging at the very busy Marietta Supercharger. Just ramping up speeds as the pack voltage comes off the floor and the car wants to start accepting more power. Like I said, 21 cents a kilowatt hour, so very, very inexpensive. And we are going to figure out where we are headed to next. There is a great little place called Schlotzsky's over there. I've had sandwiches at lunch. Fantastic. I'm gonna go see if they're open for breakfast, because I might snag something to eat while the car charges. Alright, good news and bad news. Bad news, the Schlotzsky's sandwich shop is not open right now, and they don't open until 10, and I will be long gone by then. The good news is I have found where we're going next. I wanted to make it up to Knoxville in one charge, but that's a little over 200 miles, and I would need to charge up to probably 70 or 72%, maybe 75, and I don't feel like waiting that long, so we're just going to take advantage of the charge curve down low on this vehicle, and we are going to go 100 miles to the supercharger in Chattanooga. Then, once we arrive in Chattanooga, We will do another 110 miles to Knoxville, to the Powell, Tennessee Supercharger, where we will probably stop for lunch. This Supercharger in Chattanooga is a 12 stall. I want to say it's 39 cents per kilowatt hour. 39 cents per kilowatt hour, which is most of what I see. 39, 43 cents is usually what I expect to pay on these road trips. Again, this is late 2024. Prices change very frequently, especially with Tesla. But yeah, despite the fact that this is a pretty full station, there seems to be really good throughput and good peak power. So we I believe got up to 250 kilowatts, maybe 245. I wasn't paying close enough attention, to be totally honest. But we seem to be getting all the power that the car wants, and the battery doesn't appear to be too cold or warm. So we're probably going to charge up here until we reach maybe 40, possibly 42%, and then we are off to Chattanooga. Unlike our last charge stop, which did have the right peak speeds, but for some reason seems to have fallen off early, I'm suspecting it's because the battery wasn't the right temperature, but it should have been, because the Supercharger was in the navigation. It said that it was preconditioning, so I'm not sure exactly what happened to that. But this time we seem to be doing A-OK. We're at 39%, doing 140 kilowatts, which is right exactly what you would want for a perfect charging session on a long-range Model 3, Model Y battery. Alright, we are approaching departure time. The battery's at 42%. We're doing 126 kilowatts, 125, and once it dips down to 124, I'm just going to go ahead and unplug and we will leave. It's estimating an 8% arrival, but I think that's a little optimistic. But 42% to go 100 miles is more than plenty, even at our worse than normal efficiency. Okay, we are 82 miles away from the Chattanooga Supercharger. We've done about 18 miles, 15 minutes worth of driving here, and already the efficiency has massively improved. We're at 269 watt-hour per mile, which again is not amazing. I would really be hoping for 250 at the minimum. Lower is better. So 225, 200 is amazing. 225 is about what I would expect for roughly 75 miles an hour. So somewhere between 225 and 250 is what I would like to see. Alright, we are arriving at the Chattanooga, Tennessee Supercharger. We've driven 100 miles over the last hour and 20 minutes, averaging 258 watt-hour per mile. We're at 10% battery, so we came in quite high, all things considered, compared to the previous 2 or 3 charging stops. compared to the previous 2 or 3 charging stops. But should be a pretty quick plug in and leave. Alright, we are plugged in and it is starting to charge. Alright, we are now charging in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Next stop, Powell for lunch. We should get there sometime around noon. And it looks like we are getting a perfect charging session here. 252 kilowatts at 11%. I think I'm going to let it charge up to 41%, maybe 42. And then we'll go ahead and take off. Well, the supercharger filled up very quickly, and so now we are actually site limited. We're at 29%. We should be getting, I don't know, high 160s, maybe like the 175 range. We're getting 119 kilowatts, which is close to the site level maximum. Now we are down to 110, which is about max for a fully loaded site where all cars are pulling just about full power. So, like I said, we're at 29%, 30% now, pulling 110 kilowatts, and hopefully some of these other vehicles here will finish charging or charge higher so that they ask for less power, so we can put a little more energy in here so we can get a quicker charging session. This is only a minute later, but I wanted to actually show you guys what I was talking about so you can see we're at 33%, getting 115 kilowatts now. We were getting 113 a minute ago. And at 33%, we should still be north of 150, probably, like I said, in the low to mid 160 kilowatt range. It's pretty packed right now. So we got in just early enough to get a spot. And one person just unplugged right behind us, which you can actually see because now we're getting 133 kilowatts instead of 110 or 115. I will see you in 6% when we are leaving at 41. Alright guys, it is just about time to unplug. We're at 40%. I'm just waiting for it to tick over to 41. We're pulling 129 kilowatts. So we're not quite there at our maximum charging speed, but we're pretty close to what the car wants at this charge level. It just ticked over to 41, so let me go ahead and unplug, and then we'll go over the route plan one more time. All right, we are unplugged, headed back on the road. The site had maybe 3 other Teslas when I pulled in. I believe this is a 12 stall. It might be a 16, but I'm pretty sure it's a 12 stall site. Let me just double check. Yes, it is a 12 stall version 3 supercharger. So I was the 4th vehicle to plug in on arrival, and within a minute or two, it went from 4 taken to absolute max capacity. There was a small wait for a minute or two, and then just enough vehicles have cleared out now that there is one open space, the one that I just vacated. Anyway, onward to Powell, Tennessee, where we will arrive at around 12:05. We will plug in, I believe it's a 24 stall behind a set of stores, a small shopping mall, and a hotel. We'll have some lunch, probably Zaxby's, but we'll reevaluate as we get closer. Alright, we are, I believe, 30 miles away maybe 25 miles away from Powell, Tennessee. As you can see, it is a 24-stall supercharger with supposedly 12 stalls available on arrival and 16 cars en route. So we are just barely ahead of a gigantic gaggle of Tesla drivers headed to the supercharger. This is a new location that was much, much needed. I believe the only V3 location in Knoxville, Tennessee at the time was the 8-stall in downtown Knoxville. I'm using air quotes there that you cannot see. In downtown Knoxville. And then there was a 10-stall version 2 supercharger, which is super not ideal for travel days because they split power, so it's actually 75 per post if it's more than half full. Well, for each pair of stations that has 2 cars on it, one of the 2 only gets 75 kilowatts and the other one only gets 75 kilowatts. All that to say, this is a lot of traffic, and it appears that I'm not the only one traveling today, which makes sense. It's a Sunday right after Thanksgiving, but we shall see. I was hoping to get there by 12:05, and I think 12:20 is going to be an optimistic arrival for lunchtime. So from there, we have 2 options: either sit down for lunch and try to eat really quickly, and then make one more charge stop before we get to Dayton, Ohio, or we can plug in and walk down to the Zaxby's, have lunch, not worry about going super fast, just take however long it takes, use the restroom, get back in the car, and try to make it in one shot. I'm kind of split on which method to do right now. So I think we're just going to feel it out. I think once we plug in, we'll figure out what we're going to do. That's all I got for now. I will see you in Knoxville. Alright guys, we are coming up on our lunchtime stop in Powell, Tennessee. Right now we are 2 miles away at 9% battery. This will be the second highest charge stop for state of charge arrival. That was a really clunky way of saying this is the second time that we will be stopping with like more in the battery than I was expecting. But we are preconditioning for fast charging, and it is a busy day, so I would like to get plugged in as quick as possible. We will see where we go from there. Alright, we are coming up the road to the supercharger. According to the map, there should be 14 stalls available with 10 taken. And would you look at that? A bunch of Model Ys, Model X, a Rivian R1T, and we are going to plug in right next to the Rivian. All right. Alright guys, that was some good food over there at the Zaxby's. Had a spicy chicken sandwich and some fries. Now we're gonna go walk back and check on the car. There's a front entrance to this little retail area over here, but figured I would just walk behind so as to not get a bunch of people on camera. So the Supercharger is just up this hill and to the right. It should come into view in about a minute. It's not a terrible location. I do believe there's a Five Guys right in this building, I think on the other side. And at the back of this building is where the Supercharger is. But if you turn around, then there's a Zaxby's. And Zaxby's is good. All these little shops here, a bank there, a very busy road here, and the Superchargers. Alright guys, we are back. Different truck next to us now. There was a Rivian R1T when I left, and there's a Ford Lightning now. We are at 76%, pulling 59 kilowatts, and I was going to let it just top charge and then blast straight to Dayton. That's 30 minutes, and I don't have that kind of patience. So, we are going to try to go to Florence, Kentucky. If that doesn't work out, we can always bail out in Lexington. Unfortunately, it is a bit of a long stretch with nothing really in between here, but... And, yeah, we're going to go ahead and unplug, and we will be on our way. Alright, we have left the Powell, Tennessee Supercharger, and we are now... Alright, I gotta show you this. That is a lifted smart car on knobbies. Anyway, we have left the Powell, Tennessee Supercharger, and we are now headed up to Florence, Kentucky. We are headed up to Florence, Kentucky. We left, I believe, with a 78% state of charge. Pretty sure it was 78%. Like I said before, I strongly considered just letting it top charge, but then I realized I would be sitting there for half an hour, and I would rather just go to Lexington and charge for 5 minutes than sit here for half an hour to get the same amount of charge. Because the lower the charge is in the battery, the faster it charges. So, on our way to Florence, the GPS is determined to have me go below 70 miles an hour. I am determined to ignore it. So right now we have a 4% slated arrival percentage, 227 miles to go, 77%. If for some reason we start to fall below, say, 1.5% arrival, then I am going to bail out in Lexington, Kentucky, which is the next farthest away Supercharger that I can reach, and we'll just go from there. But as far as I can tell, the highway is quite backed up and has a lot of traffic, so I think we'll be okay. I would love to travel at a higher rate of speed, but I don't think that's going to happen today. It is just a busy day. That's a very fast two-wheel. It is just a busy day, so I have a strong suspicion we will make it to Florence just fine. But, just in case, I'll be keeping an eye on that route planner just to make sure that things don't get too crazy. guys, we are in Pioneer, Tennessee, and I don't know if it's easy to see from this camera, but it is snowing actively. Big snowflake, not that big, but big snowflakes. I was still shooting for Florence. It still said 4% arrival, but it's snowing. So, in the interest of not getting stuck with a low battery on a potentially shut down highway, or risking it passing Lexington and then not having a good bailout option, and I'm sure there's probably 1 or 2 CCS charges if I really, really needed to, that I could drop by. But in the interest of being a little more conservative than I usually am on road trips, I'm actually going to stop in Lexington, Kentucky at the Meijer, and we are going to pull in at a estimated 23% state of charge, which is really high, like really, really high. I believe that it is not possible to achieve 250 kilowatts above 20% charge when you plug in. So we'll see how this goes. But we don't need a whole lot more power to go from here to Dayton. So my plan is pull into Lexington. It's now estimating 22%. Plug in. Maybe we don't get full speed, but we shouldn't need to be there more than 5-10 minutes. And if we do need to be there for a while to get to Dayton, then we'll just plug in for a minute, and then we will add 10-20% battery charger hop to Florence, Kentucky, and from there it's a short hop, skip, and jump away. We definitely don't need to stay there long if we end up in Florence, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think going to Lexington, charging for 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll be good. Like I said, it should be possible to stretch from here to Florence without stopping. We're still at a 63% state of charge, but I just don't feel like risking it today. If it was a trip down to my destination, away from Ohio, I'd probably give it a shot just for kicks and giggles. But today is Sunday. I have work on Monday, and I really don't want to try out whatever the wait time is for a tow truck on the Sunday after Thanksgiving, because that sounds like a recipe for sadness. So we're gonna just avoid that entire potential tree of events, even if it does potentially lead to a faster arrival at home, and we will instead stop in Lexington. Alright guys, quick update. We are in Corbin, Kentucky, and I am going to either stop in Georgetown at the Pilot Flying J EVgo station, or I'm going to continue on to Florence, and I believe I will make that decision once we approach Lexington, because Georgetown is a little bit north of Lexington. So it has stopped snowing. However, there is pretty heavy traffic, so it says we should arrive in Florence with 3%, but I'm not sure if I want to risk it. I'm still going back and forth, so I think we're just going to play the waiting game. We'll just wait it out until we start to get into Lexington, and then we'll make a final decision as to whether we are going to bail out a little early at the Georgetown EVgo, or continue on to the Florence Supercharger. The reason I chose the Georgetown EVgo is it's very easy to access. It's a little further north than the Lexington Supercharger, which means I need to cover less distance to get back to Dayton. And it has a 540 amp charge limit, 350 kilowatt max, but this vehicle is going to be limited by amperage. At 250 kilowatts, it would want somewhere in the range of 620, 680 amps if it was completely dead. However, we'd be arriving with about 20%, so 540 amps at whatever the voltage is at 20% would be somewhere above 200 kilowatts, which is close enough. And like I said, we really don't need all that much extra power. So if we can plug in and get north of 200 kilowatts for 5 to 10 minutes, now it won't stay that way because that's the charge curve of this battery does not allow that. But if we can plug in and we can hit that peak speed of over 200 kilowatts, then it makes sense to just go to Georgetown. Welcome back. We are in Lexington, Kentucky, and we are continuing on to the EVgo charging station that I mentioned earlier. I rechecked the route plan to Florence, and it was going to be pretty tight. We'd be getting there with maybe 10%, and that just didn't sit too well with me. Normally, I am totally cool just showing up completely dead, but it just seemed like a little bit too much risk with not a whole lot of reward. So instead, we are going to the EVgo in Georgetown, Kentucky. CCS for the win. I'm mostly kidding. It just happens to be farther north than the next closest supercharger, because the next closest supercharger to Florence, Kentucky, going north on I-75, is the Lexington, Kentucky Supercharger, which is a great supercharger. It's a mixture of V2 and V3 chargers. I want to say it's a 20 or a 22 stall site. There's a Meijer there. They have a Culver's. There's good food, restroom options, all that. But it's farther south than this EVgo station. So we're just going to give that a try here in about 20 minutes. And hopefully this traffic clears up soon, because we have gone from cruising along to 1 mile an hour. Alright guys, we are in Georgetown, Kentucky. Still on I-75. We'll be taking the exit here at about 1.5 miles. And yeah, you probably can't see it on the camera, but I can actually just see the edge of the Pilot Flying J sign from here. We've driven 178 miles since our last stop. We've been on the road for a little over 2.5 hours. Been averaging 264 watt-hour per mile, and to be honest, I am ready to get out and stretch my legs. It has been a little bit. It started a little warmer, I believe, than we're at now. We're at 41 degrees. I think it was 43 or 45 degrees when we started, then went up through the mountains of Tennessee and dealt with a bunch of snow. And now we are back to sunny and low 40s. Although I don't expect that to last for a very long time once we get on the road again. So we'll go ahead and we will get off here. and see if the EVgo is open. Pretty sure it's open, but yeah, should be coming in at, it says 17%. I have 16 indicated now, so it'll definitely be the low side of 17% if we do if we do see 17% on plug-in. Alright, we got an Ioniq 5 and a Kia Niro EV, and it looks like the Ioniq 5 just finished charging. So we'll go ahead and pull in here, and we'll get it started. Alright, let's grab our CCS adapter, plug this car in. Can't quite do it one-handed. Alright, got it plugged in. Looks like it's processing. Connecting to your vehicle. Pilot Flying J. Matching voltage and charging. Go ahead and go to the session details. Get all the good information. 364 volts. So there we go, 200 kilowatts. As the car starts slowly requesting less power, I'm going to go ahead and walk inside here so I can use the restroom. And then we will see where we're at charge-wise and head back out. Got a big fuel station here. Another large one for the semis over there. And it looks like it's just me and the Kia Niro. So, we'll check on the charge level, see how far away we are. Still doing 146 kilowatts at 34%, so we are almost on the regular charge curve. The battery's probably a little bit chilly from not preconditioning, it being barely above freezing out here. Guys, I just checked and we have 120 or so miles remaining to go. And then we'll be back in Dayton. So we're at 38% now. Still drawing 133 kilowatts. I think normally we would be in the low 140s here, so we're pretty close to the optimal charge curve, but we're not quite on there. Yeah, 263 watt-hour per mile for the last leg of the trip. I think we're going to break 4 miles per kilowatt hour or get below 250 again on this return, as the speeds are going to drop quite a bit once we get into Ohio. So we'll see how it goes, but we're already at 39%, and I think we're only going to need maybe 44%. I think we only need 44%, and then we can get out of here. Alright guys, we are back on the road, and according to the GPS, we should be arriving back in Dayton with 9% battery. If I had realized we were going to get there with that much energy, I probably wouldn't have charged as much as I did, but that's okay, better safe than sorry. We charged up to 44%, and then I clicked done, and we ended the session and got right back on the road. Also, I apologize for the video quality here. I'm trying to block out the sun with the visor, but it's not perfect. We have 113 miles left to go. We've been on the road for a few minutes now, and we've got about a 5:30 p.m. arrival. We are in Newport, Kentucky right now, and we're on I-275 because I-75 is extremely backed up. So, because we had extra buffer, 7 or 8%, we are able to go all the way around Cincinnati, and we still have an estimated arrival percentage of 3%. This is why, even though before I mentioned, well, maybe I should have charged less. It's not really that big a deal. At the end of the day, when we unplugged, we were still doing more than 120 kilowatts. That's still quite fast. And because we overcharged a little bit, we have a lot more flexibility now where we can decide, you know what, let's skip 10 minutes of traffic and let's go all the way around this major city rather than having to cut through because we don't have the extra range for a 15, 20 mile detour. So yeah, that's where we're at. Newport, Kentucky, and Cincinnati, here we go. We are in Middletown, Ohio, continuing north toward Dayton. We have 7% battery, about 20 miles to go, and we have projected at 0.5% arrival. So, we're going to continue on, just cruising the traffic. Should be good. I'm thinking about visiting the EVgo station in Franklin, Ohio, I believe. It's only a few miles up from here. It's just right off the exit. I think I'm going to give that a try. I don't need to charge because I'll get there at 0% or more. But it might be fun just to do another quick check-in since we're passing it anyway, and then we can see if they've brought it online yet. This should be it. The Franklin, Ohio EVgo. We visited this in the first video on this channel, and at the time it was near completion, but not open yet. So now, approximately 1.5 weeks later, maybe 2 weeks later, I think 1.5 weeks later, we will see if that has changed. I am hopeful that they've brought it online, since it would be a great resource for those traveling over the holidays, over the end of the Thanksgiving rush, and of course coming into Christmas travel here in a few weeks. But we will find out very shortly. I see the blue glow of lit up stations. I wonder if they opened it. I wonder if they opened it. Well, let's find out. Alright guys, we are here back at the Franklin, Ohio EVgo. Again, this should be a familiar sight here. Literally and figuratively. But as far as I can tell, these stations might actually be functional. When we were here last, I don't think the lights were on. I'll just stand in front so you can see it more easily. I don't think this blue light here was enabled. So those are the status LEDs for the station. And it's lit up. These traffic cones were moved. Over here, they are also moved, but there's one just hanging out right there, so I'm not sure about that station. But I'm going to go ahead and mess with the screen here. Let's see if we can get it working. Alright, sorry about the noise. It is an active truck stop and all that. But I just clicked the start button or whatever was on here before. So if we do pricing, 50 cents per kilowatt hour, that's not too bad. Information, oh yeah, that's just how to start a session. Looks like there's a working payment terminal. So I am going to open that up. We will connect the CCS adapter to this EVgo site. There we go. And gotta love cable management. But I don't think I can yank on this cable with one hand. So I'll be right back. Oh man, that just barely reaches. That is a maxed out cable extender right there. So we'll go ahead and see if we, see if we can get this payment started here, but authorization declined. Please unplug charger. It may have been sitting for too long, so what I'm going to do is I am going to put the camera down one more time, see if I can connect it really quickly, and then use the payment terminal. Oh no, it did not like that. Alright. Let's replug it. Alright. I heard a beep from the charger. Okay. Oh yeah. Perfect. So it was just a session timeout. I just waited too long. Payment has been authorized. This is so exciting. I'll have to check PlugShare after this. I don't know if we're the first ones to charge here, if it's even documented that it's open, or maybe it's been open and I just had no idea. But you can see the status light up top turned green, so it's actively charging. Blue means available. Checking cable safety. Still communicating. We are almost at the end of the handshake at 6%. There we go. Let's see if it'll ramp all the way to the full power. Now the car's battery is cold, so it may not get all 540 amps here. But we'll wait a second and see if it ramps. If it ramps up, I'll move it over to the other stall and we'll try the other one too. You can hear the cooling fans kicking on the Model 3 here, making a bunch of noise, and yep, the car is a little bit too cold to take full power. However, we're getting 465 amps, 168 kilowatts, can't complain. Alright, let's go try charger number 2 real quick, just make sure the whole site is online. Yep. Simultaneous charging available, tap to start. Looks like we should be good to go, so we'll move it, flip it around, try it again, and then be on our way. How exciting. We got to see the launch of a new charging station in a major corridor. And it looks like it may have just needed a second to ramp up here. The car, not the station. We are pulling 515, 516, 522. Look at that, 10%, 201 kilowatts. That is the maximum amperage we're going to get from that charger. This is a fully functional, brand new EVgo Delta 350. Sweet. Alright, take 2 on the other charger. So that one was working perfectly fine. Now let's give this one a shot. Payment authorized. There we go. Would you look at that? 540 amps, 200 kilowatts. She's taking all the juice. I am frozen now. It's 32 degrees again. Ah! Alright, let's put away the CCS adapter and get back on the road. We are 20 minutes away from our destination, so let's hit it. Alright guys, thank you so much for joining me on that road trip. We just arrived at 5:48 p.m. We left at, I think, 1:10. I've already given most of my impressions. It was a really good road trip. This is one of the busiest times of year, so we hit a lot of traffic. That really, skewed the results if we were going for like a speed type test, but really this was just supposed to be more of a chill. But yeah, overall, just a great, really stress-free trip, and I hope you enjoyed watching as much as I enjoyed making it. And the lights turned off. Bye.